Hey everyone, this is the Villains Man, and I'm JVD, bringing you another comic book review over Amazing Spider-Man, Spider-Man vs. Venom. These stories take place between 298 through 300, and also 315 through 317. These are the first two story arcs with Venom. Issues 298 and 300 are the very first issues of Spider-Man drawn by the legendary and amazing Todd McFarlane. He was the one to very first draw Venom, and besides creating Spawn, this is what he's really known for. And the design is really good, and if you ever read these, the design of the character changes rapidly within the first 50 issues of his appearance. Not so much with the legendary, very popular spider on his chest, but just the teeth in general. And they go from almost human teeth to crazy fanged teeth that are very slobbery all the time. So within, like I said, 50 issues, dramatically in the face, there are some big changes to the character. But it's very simple in the first part of the story, which is 298 through 300. In the last part of the story, it takes a turn for the crazy. But like I said, these issues are always usually in a trade paperback together, titled The Birth of Venom, hence the name of this review. But there's some lead-ins into Venom's debut. First one's in Web of Spider-Man 18, where Peter is shoved in the front of the subway, but you don't see who the hands is, but you find out that it's Eddie Brock. In Web of Spider-Man 24, when trying to change into his Spider-Man costume and climb out of a building, he's grabbed by a massive black hand, which is Venom's. So, feel free to read both of those issues before you decide to start into Spider-Man 298, which honestly you don't even have to read. You can read the very end of 298 and 299. Those are basically the first points of Venom, and then it's full-fledged craziness come issue 300. But I'm going to go ahead and cover all that together. These are really good stories, especially issue 300 is just, I would say, perfect. It's a great story. There's a lot of action. You really get to see Venom come into his own, the hatred with Eddie Brock. And even in the next story, you get to see how crazy he is over wanting to kill Spider-Man, but how much he does care about protecting innocents. But he will do what it takes to get past those innocents, if need be, to an extreme level just to get Spider-Man. So he's a very conflicted character right off the start. You really see that anti-hero being established even as he shows his hatred for Spider-Man. But I kind of dip into some spoilers here as we go on. Like I said, 298, 299, you really don't need to read if you don't care about Chance. He's a Spider-Man. He's kind of a mercenary for hire. And these two issues are mainly wrapped around him. It's, like I said, the very ends of those issues you need to read. But basically, he's hired by the Life Foundation to steal a shipment of weapons. And obviously, he crosses past Spider-Man and he runs. There's a blackout, which is really cool because there's a notation that this happens in X Factor 25, and I thought that was really cool. A lot of these older stories, you see that, where something will happen in one book that has nothing to do with that title. That it's affecting, so that's really neat. But anyways, it's basically a setup, and the Life Foundation catches him, and they take him to their Sanctum Maximus, which they're wanting to replicate his wrist blasters and his ankle jets, so they can arm their security with it. Spider-Man's got a spider tracer, which he traces the truck down to it, and they free each other, and they team up. And Spider-Man, oddly enough, has to catch a ride on top of Chance to go back to New York, which he's kind of embarrassed about. Now, I will note here as I get into 300, which is a very solid book, as I said. Many fans might be confused when you read this because Spider-Man still has the black suit, and that is only what it is a black suit. After he rid himself of the Venom symbiote in Web of Spider-Man #1, you can check all that out, and the origin of the alien costume in a review I've already done called the Saga of the Alien Costume. But he actually had a tailored costume that looked just like the black costume, and he wore it all the way to issue 300. So you've got 48 issues of Amazing Spider-Man plus issues in like Marvel Team Up and Peter Parker's Spectacular Spider-Man, where he still has this after he's gotten rid of the symbiote. So that's something to kind of take in as you're reading this. But eventually, Eddie Brock has appeared to MJ and terrorizes her, and it kind of forces him to move. And right then, you already see that he is affecting Peter in a psychological way. He's basically kind of weakening him up before he actually comes into the attack. And right off the bat, Peter realizes that the symbiote has escaped. It is still alive. And he retrieves the sonic blaster that Reed Richards used to remove the symbiote off of him. And even as they're forced to move, and because of this, I mean, you're seeing that Mary Jane has really hit the money with her modeling career. There's a really good relationship with her and Peter Parker, but Venom showing up is literally haunting her, and it's kind of driving a wedge in between them. But anyways, Venom winds up eventually luring him out of the condo, and they have a big brawl. And he hits him with the sonic blaster, and he realizes that his greatest fears have come true. The symbiote has completely bonded with Eddie Brock. And to kill Eddie Brock or the symbiote would be to kill the other. So he tries to leave, and Venom webs him up and pulls him back in, and they have this crazy fight. Venom beats him and takes him to the church where Peter got rid of the symbiote at and thought he had killed it. And it's kind of crazy, and is as crazy as a lot of Spider-Man's villains kind of tend to be. I would say this is probably one of the most absurd things in a way. Brock has the alien costume because it can change clothes, make him look like he's basically a Catholic preacher, a priest. And it's kind of strange because he has Spider-Man all webbed up inside the bells, and eventually they're going to crush him. And Spider-Man breaks free. Well, anyways, during their fight here, he realizes that the more webbing Venom uses, because it's organic, it's basically the suit, basically he's going to run out. And that's how he beats him. He makes him run out of organic webbing, which basically is him spreading the symbiote around. And he falls on the concrete, knocks himself out. And he's confined in Baxter's building. They have him in a holding tank by the end of the book with a symbiote. But it's a really good story. Like I said, you get this origin of Eddie Brock and how he came about the symbiote. Lo and behold, he was just below in the church when Peter got rid of the symbiote. The symbiote came to him because he was getting ready to commit suicide. He had lost his job over the Sin Eater articles he was writing, and it was all due to Spider-Man, so he already hated Spider-Man. So him and the symbiote bonding is what led to him becoming Venom. And they both have this hatred for Spider-Man. And it's really good because he's already got abilities that Peter didn't know he had. And some of these abilities don't make sense because he doesn't trigger a spider sense. He is much stronger than Spider-Man, because the symbiote has leached some of Spider-Man's abilities, so he's as fast, he's stronger. Basically, he is everything more than Pete, and you can really see it in the fight because Spider-Man doesn't stand a chance against Venom. It just shows you how much stronger he is as a character. And I would even say at this time, out of Spider-Man's rogues gallery, he is by far the strongest. But anyways, he's lucky enough that he beats Venom in a very simple manner. The webbing runs out, and he crashes through the concrete. And that's one thing I really don't understand. Why did this never happen to Spider-Man? Because they talk about how the symbiote would, obviously it regenerates itself. But as much web swinging as Spider-Man does, why didn't he realize this much sooner? It's not in the Amazing Spider-Man series. It may be in Spectacular or whatnot if you would like to read that, or like the Marvel Team Up books. The only explanation that you could remotely figure out from this is that he's webbed up the bells so much when he captures Spider-Man in them that Venom has used most of the symbiote, but it is still covering himself at that time. So that, to me, makes no sense whatsoever. One thing I don't realize is, as I had said, both the Web of Spider-Man books, you get glimpses of Eddie trying to basically kill Spider-Man without showing his identity. I don't understand why he would have revealed his identity so soon to Spider-Man, but it's kind of an old comic book cliche where the villain just reveals themselves and their master plan once they have the hero at their mercy. So I mean, I guess that makes sense, but just the small build up to this, I think it would have been a lot better if Pete would have just managed to barely escape and Venom just let him go and Peter didn't realize it. There is some pretty good jokes here. And this main one is they mentioned that Mary Jane makes more money than IBM, which IBM being a computer company, this being the 80s, it's kind of crazy. But that means she's making buku money. I mean, computers weren't as big as what they are here now in the millennium, but that means she has to be making buttloads of cash. And it's kind of funny because she doesn't, unlike Black Cat, she doesn't care about the money. Where Pete did, and Felicia was high maintenance. No, Pete doesn't, Pete is worried about not being able to provide, and MJ's like, no, it doesn't matter. I'm rich, be happy. We don't have anything to worry about. And, that even really shows itself where, during the fight with Chance, where Pete's factory and making money for the Bugle while fighting crime, and that's how Chance gets away from him. So you can see how that's just a big distraction, except for when it comes to Venom. He wasn't distracted about it then. But anyways, by the end of this, he puts on the red and blue suit. He goes back to being classic Spider-Man because Mary Jane is so disturbed by it. Like I said, these 3 issues, 300 is really good. Just read the end of 98, 99 if you want to. Save yourself some time. As we dive into issues 315 and 317, Pete and MJ's life has completely done a 360. All that money she had to live in that condo has went to the fact that it's been tied up in legal issues. Let's restart that. As we dive into issues 315 through 317, Pete and MJ's life has been completely turned around from what it is in 300. All that money that MJ has for modeling that they used to buy this expensive condo is now tied up in legal issues, and they are very, very hard up on money, and are forced to kind of rely on Aunt May. And during this time, Venom escapes the vault and winds up going to New York to an abandoned shelter used basically for nuclear war, and basically winds up training himself and buying his time trying to find Spider-Man. During all this, Black Cat comes back to find out Pete is now married to MJ and that she's actually wasted her opportunity, and kind of feels a little bit bad about not staying with him. But this kind of not turns into her favor as she gets her ass handed to her by Venom. It's pretty cool to see this. Well, I wouldn't call it a fight. It's almost her trying to escape. But her bad luck powers really take a toll on Venom until he gets her hands on her. And this kind of goes back to when I was talking to her and Pete being this ultimate team, this ultimate duo back in the Alien Costume Saga, his radar and her spider sense, because here she is, someone way out of her league, and she's tripping him up. But anyways, he smashes her face into a wall. It's pretty brutal, and leaves her alive because he's after Spider-Man. So eventually, Venom's stalking their old apartment, and MJ, for some reason, can feel the presence. I don't know if that's from Pete's bond with the symbiote that's kind of rubbed off on her. I mean, some supernatural thing, I don't know why. But she feels it and it's really bothering her. Well, anyways, Pete goes after him and he's ambushed, but he manages to escape. The only bad thing is he's left his change of address from being kicked out of the condo, and Venom tracks him down. So then he starts to stalk Peter when he's with Aunt May, threatens Aunt May, and this is what I love about this. Venom is taken to the point where he's going back to that psychological thing that you're seeing in issue 300. He's really trying to get at Peter's heart. And he realizes, to weaken Peter's mind, he will be able to finally rid himself of Spider-Man. And it's really cool because really until Green Goblin, way early on in the series had found out Pete's identity and the whole stuff with the death of Gwen Stacy, you really don't ever get to see a character really torment Pete this way. And to imagine that, as I said before, in 300, I don't understand why he revealed his identity so soon. This right here would have been the perfect time to do so. Eddie Brock shows up. Pete's like, Eddie Brock, what are you doing here? And he goes over the, the thought bubbles with the Sin Eater thing and whatnot. And then he threatens Aunt May, and Pete's just like, you're not going to do anything to her. And then he kind of reveals that he's Venom there. That would have been awesome. But anyways, he challenges him to a battle at the docks to finish everything. We get a really cool new power here from the symbiote. If you ever played Marvel vs. Capcom 2, which I love, Venom is able to send the symbiote across the floor at you and attack you with it. And you kind of see that here in this book. I'm guessing this is where they got that from. As the tendrils go under the sand at the docks and come up to attack Spider-Man. And it's really cool because Venom and Eddie Brock are starting to display these powers that Pete never had, and it's pretty cool. It even can feel these spider tracers on him and winds up flicking them off of him because Pete's going to trace him after he dives in the water and tries to fool Venom. But anyways, Pete realizes the only way to save himself is to let the symbiote take him over, and he's willing to do it. Because then it's off Brock, it's not a threat, and you can really tell that the symbiote wants him because he realizes it's the stronger host, which really it's really neat because you get to see it separate, and it's stuck to both Pete and Eddie, and the strain is so much it knocks both of them out. And you get to see the symbiote slowly leave Parker, and it realizes that it's too bonded to Brock to leave for Pete. And so Pete gets to walk away alive. And that's one thing I don't get about this. Why would Pete leave Eddie Brock unconscious? That he was just in the vault, and I understand that he was in the vault at that time. But he's even talked to the Fantastic Four. You see him talking to the Thing earlier in these books. Why didn't he just be there and wait for them to pick him up instead of just leaving him there? That I just didn't understand. But this not as good as 300. It's still pretty good for the fact that you're not getting to see the awesome battle, but it's just a psychological effect that, him trying to find Peter and just being in the vicinity of Mary Jane really sets her off. The fact that he's went from stalking Mary Jane to the other part of Peter, Aunt May, and then, they've also got all this stress from this, this bad luck in their life. So, he's taking the time to really stalk Peter Parker. Personally, I think after this, once he found the change of address that was in Peter's clothes, they would have just cut off and waited so many issues and then done this, I think that would have been really, really neat. Just to kind of spread the Venom love out, because this is probably the hottest thing at the time for Marvel. Because it's really good stuff. Besides this, and probably the X-Men stuff going on with Jim Lee and Claremont. But as we wrap up this story, like I said, this is all beautiful artwork by McFarlane. Crazy enough, you really start to see the sex become prevalent in this book, especially in the 298, 300. Just the way MJ is always presenting herself to Pete, like you see her blouse fall to the floor, she's wearing lingerie. You really get to see a lot of that here, and it seems like this really takes off throughout the series from this point on for a little while, and it's something that you don't get to see a lot in comics here at this time, and I suggest if you watch this, you might not want your little kid reading something about that, or maybe they'll be like me and my little kid mind and not really understand that. But anyways, like I said, really good stuff. If you love Venom like I did, I grew up on Venom, it's great. I suggest reading it. I'm going to do some more Venom reviews here soon. Like I said, check out my review for the Saga of the Alien Costume. But I'm JVD for the Villains Man. Keep reading, guys.